Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to talk about the dealership world because things are getting pretty dicey. Before we get in this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. The dealership world has changed a massive amount over the last few years. Prior to the pandemic, we were in a car market where there was way too many cars and not enough buyers. And then during the pandemic, too many buyers, not enough cars. And now we are back into a market where there are too many cars and there are not enough buyers. And this is changing things in the dealership world at a rapid pace because, well, these changes are happening at a rapid pace. And something that I wanted to highlight in today's video is dealership debt, because it is becoming a huge pain point for car dealers in today's market. Now, just like a lot of businesses here in the US, debt is a big part of the dealership world. Most dealer groups do not actually own their dealerships, right? The banks own the dealerships. And what I mean by this is the inventory that they have, a lot of the time, that inventory is not owned outright in cash, right? They take out loans on the inventory, right? That's why you always hear about flooring charges associated with dealers. And then the actual building and the land that the building's on, a lot of the times that is not owned by dealers. That is also something that dealers take out a loan for. And the reason why they take out loans on these items is because they are extremely expensive. I mean, if you look at the, just average stereotypical new car dealership here in the US, it is an extremely expensive thing to purchase. So just like the building and the land itself for most dealers is going to be, anywhere from, on the very low side of things, 25 to 35 million dollars. Typically it's closer to like 50 to 100 million dollars. And then you have the inventory on top of that. And so once you take into account building plus land plus inventory, in most cases you'll have an item altogether that is over $100 million per dealership. And I don't know about you, but most people out there don't have just $100 million sitting around. And so that's why they take out loans on the inventory and on the building and the land itself. And so this means a big part of the dealership business model is going to be, working around this debt repayment, right? Making sure that they are profitable enough to be able to pay back their debts over time, but then also, right, pay on the inventory, because that's something that just never gets paid off for dealers, right? They're always going to have interest on the inventory because most dealers just are never going to pay cash for the inventory that they have. And so now this leads into what is happening in today's market. So over the last, year and a half, we've seen a consistent trend of an increase in the purchasing of new vehicles, a slight decrease in the purchasing of used vehicles, but a huge decrease in the overall profitability on vehicle sales. Dealerships are making significantly less money on a per car basis when they sell cars. And this is happening at the exact same time that interest rates have increased a massive amount and service departments are decreasing in their overall profitability. So you can see that dealerships are now in a situation where they're paying more interest on their inventory. And obviously, the loans on the building and the land, right? Whenever that was taken out will determine the interest rate. But a lot of dealership purchases actually happened over the course of the last few years. And so I'm sure some of these, loans that these dealers have on these dealerships they just purchased are, at higher interest rates compared to what they could have been, just a couple of years ago. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is we are in a car market where dealerships are becoming less and less profitable on every single front at the same time that they're having to pay more interest on their inventory. And if they happen to recently purchase a dealership and they finance the purchase of that dealership, well, the interest rate they're paying now is also going to be higher. So their overhead is higher. And so this now leads us into talking about how dealerships are reacting to the situation, and it's pretty straightforward. The biggest cost for dealerships is payroll, right? People are expensive in the dealership world. And so if a dealership wants to save money, then they just have to make payroll cuts. And that is definitely what I am seeing right now. And I've been seeing this for like the last 12 months at this point. And I think it's going to continue into the future. And if we just look at the raw numbers, this makes complete logical sense. And so I want to dive into this to kind of explain the whole situation. So this is just kind of a generalized number, but I think it's pretty accurate for most dealers here in the US. Some dealers are going to make, less money than this number, some are going to make more, but for the most part, most dealers can expect to make anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 per month as net profit, right? That's off of, an overall, gross revenue amount of probably like $2, $3, $4 million in a month. Usually the profit margin in the dealership world is about 10% roughly. Again, it can be higher, can be lower, just depends on the dealership, the market. There's a lot that goes into it. But let's just say $200,000 to $300,000 per month. That sounds like an enormous amount of money. And for like an individual, yeah, that would be an enormous amount of money. But for a business, it's not nearly as much money as you think. You have to remember, the dealership itself, for most dealers, is anywhere from $50 to $100 million. And so your net profit that could go into, helping to pay off that dealership sooner or to help you to buy more dealers in the future, it doesn't go nearly as far as you'd think. And again, that is assuming that you are profitable. There are some dealers that, like I said, in today's market are not profitable. There is no $200,000 to $300,000 in net profit, right? After they pay everyone, there is nothing left. And so this is where we can dive into some of the positions at dealerships. Obviously, a lot of the salaried positions at dealerships don't pay all that much. If you've ever applied to a salary position at a dealership, this is probably what you've found, right? It's pretty rare for any sort of salary position to make anywhere close to even like six figures in a year. Usually they're, minimum wage jobs or maybe a little bit above. Some of the accounting jobs can pay a little bit more. All of the jobs that pay big money at dealerships are the ones that are associated with commission, right? The salespeople and the managers and all of that. And this is where dealerships actually tend to make the cuts when things get really difficult, because this is where they can save the most amount of money. So if you look at the salespeople side of things, it doesn't make sense to get rid of salespeople typically, because again, they're usually paid on commission. And on top of that, right, the salespeople, they're kind of like the face of the dealership. They're the ones that are selling the cars. And so if you have more salespeople, usually you will sell more cars. So they don't want to get rid of those. And when you dive into the management side of things, this is where things get kind of confusing, because you do need management positions for certain roles. If you don't have people doing certain things, then the dealership's going to struggle. Like used car manager is a great example. If you don't have someone at a dealership focused on buying and selling cars and appraising cars for a dealership, your dealership is not going to be nearly as profitable. But there are some other management positions that, maybe they're not as, necessary, right? You have, literally managers of managers at dealerships. And this is where sometimes the dealerships, again, will make the cuts. And if you look at the amount that these people get paid, it makes complete sense. Like some managers, right, will get paid anywhere from like $20,000 to $40,000 per month. And so again, if your dealership is making $200,000 to $300,000 per month and you can get rid of someone that isn't necessarily helping the dealership sell more cars to then give you an extra, $20,000 to $40,000 padding per month, that is absolutely massive. And if you go to the top of things, right, the general manager of a store, general managers, again, their pay is definitely going to vary, but you'll usually see that these people will make anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 to $150,000 to $200,000 per month. And so if you can somehow, work things out in your dealership to where you don't have a general manager anymore, maybe you have what's called a store manager. This is something that I've been hearing quite often at this point. Someone that basically, runs some day-to-day operations, but they're not doing as much as a general manager, then you could literally save yourself $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 per month. And again, that's a huge profit padding. And so I think there is going to be a huge reorganization of, the staffing within dealerships, especially in the management level in the coming months. Again, I've already seen quite a bit happen. But I want you guys to let me know what you think about this whole situation. And I want you guys to let me know if you think that dealerships are going to be able to navigate this whole situation moving forward. I think that we're definitely going to see some consolidation moving forward, because again, there are dealerships that are just in areas that they're just not profitable. And so those dealers are either going to have to just get, go out of business, or someone's going to buy them out and try to, make something out of these dealerships. And so I think that we're going to, in terms of like where I think this consolidation is going to be, this is just my personal opinion, I think it's going to be on the mid-level for the most part, because if you look at the really small family-owned dealerships, most of those, everything is owned outright. Like the dealership is owned outright, the land is owned outright, and then a lot of times they pay cash for the inventory. Again, if someone's just focusing all of their money into one business, it's easier to pay everything down and to have no debt. And so these dealers, if things get a little bit harder, they're not going to be as hard hit because, again, they just have to worry about paying for their employees. They don't have to worry about paying interest and all that kind of stuff. But these mid-level dealers where maybe the dealer group has like 50 plus dealerships where there's lots of debt, things could get really difficult for them. They could be in a situation where they're just losing tons of money and then they basically just want to get out, right? I definitely see potential of that happening. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you.